Hi everyone, this is Meredith Root, and welcome to the Afternoon Snack Podcast, brought to you by Tactic Nutrition.
Hi, I'm Alex Parker, owner of Tactic Nutrition, former lawyer, CrossFit Games athlete, turned health and fitness geek.
I'm also into health and nutrition, a more recent CrossFit Games athlete, co-owner of Tactic Nutrition, and former engineer. We are here to have fun, engaging conversation about some of our favorite topics, including nutrition, health, coaching, motivation, and of course, CrossFit.
Our goal is to give you something to think and talk about and hopefully make you laugh along the way. Good evening.
I'm sorry. Do you think this is your intro? You think you get to do that now?
I just wanted to try something new.
How do you think it went?
Pretty good. I mixed it up.
Good evening. I mean, the mix-up is that it is evening, which is unusual.
Yeah, this is our second attempt at recording this podcast.
We had some technical difficulties on the first one that we didn't notice until it went up, so here we are.
If we sound ticked off, then
it's because no one likes doing something twice. Even though I like recording podcasts, it's not my preferred way to spend my evenings.
No, but I feel like this will be better. And we always sit around and talk about me and my running anyways, so it'd just be like what we normally do, just in a different room.
Yeah. You're always like, do you think I'm going to do it? Do you think I'm going to feel okay on my run? Do you think I should eat more?
I do.
Do you think I could do this pace?
Meredith, can we talk about my nutrition?
My foot's been do you think my foot's going to be okay?
What shoes should I wear? Should I wear my new shoes tomorrow?
No, I won't wear my new shoes. Should I wear my softer shoes? Just stuff like that.
Yeah, just regular.
I'm yeah, do
regular conversation.
Do your thing. But yeah, here we are. Again.
What we would normally be doing is we're really into this show called The Deuce.
I mean, what you could say, we're really into watching softcore porn is what you could say.
Yeah, it's definitely R-rated.
Yeah, I guess I haven't watched a lot of newer HBO shows. The last HBO show that I watched start to finish was Game of Thrones. I didn't realize
Which is also pretty much R-rated.
Well, I mean, there's a little more death and gore with Game of Thrones. But The Deuce, there's a whole lot of sex.
Yeah.
And it's
you see some private parts as well. And not the private parts that I
I'm okay,
particularly enjoy seeing.
I guess we can just
put it that way.
Show that now. But yeah, it's actually a good show. It's what's that guy's name? James Franco.
Yeah.
He is in it and directs it, and then Molly Gyllenhaal,
isn't it Maggie?
Maggie Gyllenhaal. Is it?
I think it is.
Maggie. Yeah, it sounds right now that I say it.
Molly works.
Molly, Maggie, same.
Potato, tomato.
Potato, burrito. It's the same. Same syllables. Anyways, it's a good show. It's got a good storyline.
It does.
Look to it. Plus, it's nice to we were on a kick there where we were only watching shows that had one season out. And so we would blast through season 1 of Euphoria, and then we're okay, I can't wait to watch season 2. And then we did that 3 or 4 times. And we snuck in some mini series. And so it's just, yeah, we were just really running through shows. I wonder and now we're watching the new L Word, which there's a new one we can watch.
Nice. Generation Q.
Which is the first time. I'm not used to watching shows where the episodes come out a week apart. And I find
so annoying.
But that's the only way that I used to watch shows. But now it's I've become so conditioned to just being able to binge watch things. It's Netflix has really changed the way that we watch movies and TV. And now when I'm forced to be patient, I'm no, I would prefer instant gratification, please.
We also are watching MasterChef, and it's the same thing. One episode a week.
But then you realize that you have a new one, and it's just
It is exciting.
Yeah, so I kind of get it. But it's hard to believe that's the way TV used to be.
I'm excited for Survivor to come back.
I
That
think
was a
that
great show. I loved.
I know that we've talked about this like in a joking way, but I really think that I should apply for Survivor. No?
Yeah, I think you would do well. I would
Okay.
miss you though.
Oh, was that the hesitation?
Yeah,
Okay. Is it because you know I would go like all 40 days?
probably. You would get so skinny.
Yeah, the food is the most concerning part. I would really have to
And the sleep would be an issue.
I think that the sleep I could get used to. And I'm good with bugs. I would be good at the physical challenges, but I would make sure that I'm not I would make purposeful mistakes early on. And then when it's time for individual play, it's like, boom.
Yeah.
She's been good at challenges all along. You just didn't know. That'd be my game. On top of a very robust social game.
You would need that for sure.
So anyways, I think I'll look into applying.
You should. I would be interested in that.
Would you watch my season?
100%. But you'd be back by then. It's not live.
Yeah, I know, but would you when I'm back, you would watch it?
Obviously, and you would too. I also just finished a book, which I feel like sharing because it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually started reading it. It was one of my clients' favorite books. And it's called The Nightingale.
That's the World War II?
Mm-hmm.
Is it about nurses?
No.
Okay.
Well, it's about Germany invading France.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give it away, but it's pretty darn good. And so when we were talking about TV shows ending, I was thinking, I don't really like starting new books either. But it takes a while to get into it and get the rhythm of the writing. But
I have a lot of book recommendations from people. I can share them with you.
I already have one picked out. It's by Matt Fitzgerald, and it's another running book.
Oh, topical.
Yeah.
Yeah. You like alternating, huh?
I do. I like alternating between fiction and nonfiction.
Mm-hmm. But when you do nonfiction, it's almost always sports nonfiction.
Almost always.
So that's not the nonfiction I go for.
Sometimes I go for coaching, but those aren't really good bedtime.
What about a memoir?
I have read memoirs. None of them come to mind.
Okay.
But what about you?
What do I like to read?
Mm-hmm.
When I actually do finish a book.
Yeah, right. You only buy books. You don't actually read them.
Yeah, well, there's that one that I was looking forward to reading that I had to sacrifice to the bathtub to prove a point. So I'll have to buy that one again eventually.
Right.
That one is the scientist who invented the CRISPR technology. That's a nonfiction, but it's thick. I don't know if you got a good look at it when I was in the bathtub.
It got even thicker when the pages were full of water.
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah, and then for fiction, I really like World War I sort of time period. I don't know why I've always enjoyed war stories, but I do. Like them. One of my favorite books ever was Seabiscuit.
Oh, really? I've never read that. Is that a popular book?
I don't know. I mean, but I used to be weirdly into horse books as a kid, like the Black Stallion and Black Beauty and Red Velvet. You're not listening anymore. You don't care about horse books.
I just wanted to confirm that I had it was World War II.
Oh, it was World War II?
Yeah. Which I think I said. I just wanted to confirm it.
Okay.
So I wasn't giving out
false information.
Yeah.
What if someone's a World War I fan like I am? I like World War I fiction.
And they start the Nightingale and discover. There's a date right there. I'm pretty sure.
This is the Second War.
But it's a great read. So thanks to my client for recommending it.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess what we're on here to talk about today is kind of this new hybrid athlete that Alex is becoming. I'm gonna pump you up. You're gonna like it. So
I already do.
The earlier in the year, I mean, we've both, and we've talked about this on the podcast. We don't need to get into it again, but kind of wrapping up competitive CrossFit, at least for the near future. And, as someone who has competed in the sport since 2013, 2014, it leaves a big void. And I think that you're an athletic person and always been into sports, and so it leaves this kind of like, well, what's next kind of question. And I think, running started to come back into the picture. And I say come back in because like running's been kind of an arc in your adult history anyways. And I think that it's interesting. And I know like a lot of people like from a like surface level probably see what you're doing on Instagram, and they see you're running, and if they're paying attention to the paces, they probably see that you're running quite fast, and they know that you're training for a marathon. And so you put the pieces together and it's like, okay, she's training for a fast marathon. But also you're still in the gym, and it's like the question is like, if your goal right now is marathon, why continue to do strength and conditioning training or CrossFit style training, and how does that fit in? And what type of athlete does that make you into in the grand scheme of athletes? Because I think we exist on a bit of a spectrum as far as athletics go, with strength and conditioning, with like, very well ultra endurance athletes being on one end and strength athletes being on the other. So how do we push the dial towards that endurance athlete without sacrificing like all of our strength and functional fitness? And I think that's what's really interesting about what you're doing. And
what you're doing.
Well, I'm doing it also, but a half marathon's a little bit different from a training volume perspective to a full marathon and the toll it takes. But you're doing it to a greater degree, and there's been a few others like Nick Bear who is doing similar things and kind of moving towards the ultra distances now. So I think like I'm really curious to see more. Like I have this feeling that you're just going to start to see these athletes come out of CrossFit, and I don't think every CrossFit athlete has the background or the interest or the drive to move into endurance sports, but I think a few of them do.
A small percentage.
A small percentage, like a like maybe single digit percentage. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see some of them, and I'm just like kind of interested to see how that looks. But right now, as far as I'm aware, you're kind of you're blazing the trail for the ladies. Yeah. So why don't we get into it a little bit? Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thanks. That was a great intro.
Thanks. That was improv. So
nice. Really good.
Thanks.
You missed the part about my good looks and
funny
personality, but I guess that will shine through as people listen in.
Yeah, and obviously look you up.
Yeah.
I hope everyone knows that's a joke. We're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll start at the very beginning. Tell me about the first running race that you have recollection of.
So this is way back in grade school. And
what grade for the Americans?
Honestly, I can't even remember.
Let's go with third grade.
Between 1 and 6.
Okay.
Because I remember the field distinctly, but I don't remember like what was going on. But there was a race. I don't remember the distance. And my dad said, don't go all out at the start. Like, I guess he was teaching me a good lesson in pacing right from the get-go. So I didn't start out all out, and I ended up winning the race.
He also obviously knows what little self-control 8-year-olds have.
Yeah, that too. I mean, he watched me and my sister chase a soccer ball around in a little pack for like the last probably, what was I, 8 then? So we started playing soccer when we were like quite young. Mm-hmm. And that's just like typical kid too. Like
typical kid soccer.
And he actually probably was the one who taught me like, don't go with the pack, like stay open.
It's Peloton running with a ball.
Pretty much. That's what kids soccer is.
Yeah.
And then Timbits donuts at halftime.
Not oranges?
Timbits were more popular.
That's very Canadian.
And, I mean, orange slices. I never liked orange slices.
I found orange slices, if they were good oranges, they were great. But if they were one of the oranges where like half of the orange is the white, and you really have
Yeah.
to like wrestle the orange, like then your hands are all
Okay, were
sticky.
you the kid that peeled the orange away from, like, when you had an orange slice?
Yeah.
Did you peel the orange away from the skin? I was the type that just kind of like bit down and like sucked.
Oh my
And so like
no.
I wasted, like, it would just be like dried up pulp left.
Oh, nasty. You just like you suck the orange juice out of the orange. You're like
Pretty
a
much.
fruit vampire. You're a vampire bat. You're a fruit bat. Yeah,
But
no.
I feel like there was just, and then you would see, and I wasn't the only kid who did this, but you would see just like the like orange carcasses.
Yeah.
Just like
And you
wasted
can pick out
orange.
which kids are the heathens and which ones are. Yeah, no, you peel the orange because then you get
I
the
knew
whole
you
thing.
were that kid.
Yeah, and I would. The
But
game
I also
was.
hated the white stuff. You know, the white stuff that comes off. It's in between the peel and the orange.
Yeah,
I hate the
but
white
if you did a
stuff.
good job peeling it, then you didn't get a lot of the white
I
stuff.
don't know. That's why I can't stand
Cuties.
cuties. I cannot stand cuties. It takes me about 15 minutes to eat one cutie. So I have to pick off all the white stuff.
The cuties are easy to peel. The knockoff cuties, though, like those things are a real bitch.
It's like knockoff snap peas.
Yeah.
That have like a string in them.
Like what the hell is? You didn't
Bite
string the
this?
pea. I need a genetically modified version of this pea that does not have this ridiculously thick.
Everyone knows what we're talking about.
Oh, I know.
It's like you buy snap peas for the first time at the farmer's market and they don't come in that like
Mm-hmm.
baggy, and you're like, these are awful.
Yeah. Or you don't. You buy green beans and have to cut off the tips, or like watermelons, and then you realize it's not seedless, and
Yeah.
you're like, it's so much work now.
But then, okay, so back to the running. I was also running, and anyone from Calgary will know exactly what I'm talking about. But the Mother's Day run and walk. It was 5K and then there was a 10K. But as a kid, as kids, we would always do the 5K.
Did you let Brenda win?
Of course not. I'm pretty sure my dad and I ran in front, like ahead together. And then my sister and my mom ran, and I'm in like quotes, behind. I'm sure my mom has good stories to tell. I'm sure we didn't even run it. We probably just complained the entire time.
Yeah.
But that was really fun. And you get these like, you'd go and get race check-in. You get your bibs and your shirt. And I think that was like my first introduction to running. It was always fun, like pinning the bib on the shirt, going out early in the morning downtown and running the race. And
Yeah.
that was always fun, a fun like family activity.
Do they still do that race?
I think so.
Hmm.
I think they do. So we could maybe do it one day.
Race on a 5K. That sounds painful.
That sounds horrible. And then I also was running before, like, I was running any like real races. I ran a couple of the K100 legs.
Which is a relay race, right?
Yeah. It's called the Kananaskis 100. And I think it's 100 miles, and you're running north towards Nikiska, like the ski hill, and you end at Nikiska. And that's actually a bit of a funny story. I ran that the second time we ran it, or I think it was the second time, I had to run a leg, and it was leg 9. And then my dad was running, no, I ran leg 8. He ran leg 9. And then the guy for leg 10 didn't show up on time. So my dad like finished his leg, toasted, because you think you're done, and had to keep running.
For
And
another
so,
like
we pulled up, and he was like, I can't continue. And I had, at that point, I was completely braless, sitting in the car. My mom was driving. I had taken my bra off, taken all my running gear back off, and he was like, Alex, you need to take over. And basically I had to put on all of my wet running stuff and continue on and do the rest of the final leg.
What year was that?
Can't remember.
Like
I think it was right before I ran the marathon.
it's like 2010.
Yeah, around there.
Did you-
2011,
I
2012.
feel like you probably could have gone braless back then. just
That's
saying.
actually a good point.
I think you could have skipped the bra. That's always been like a. Would you ever do a workout like braless just to see? in our basement.
We've talked about this. I think you should. If any of us can do it, it's you.
Should I go shirtless?
I think you should go shirtless and topless.
Okay. I'll see about that. Okay, so K100. Sorry, I'm just envisioning what that would be like. Might
Depends
be quite
on the
like
movements.
liberating. Like burpees would be weird.
I feel like chest to bar pull-ups would.
That would be weird. Like anything with the D ball. That would,
Yeah.
yeah. Have to think about that. Yeah. So K100, and then what happened after that?
Okay, well, to back up, my first dabble into distance running was in 2010. My sister convinced me and my dad and my mom to all run the Calgary Stampede half marathon. And I hadn't run any distance before, like beyond 5 kilometers when I was a kid.
Did you wear a cowboy hat?
No.
Okay.
So we all did it, and I can't remember how my dad did. My sister finished way ahead, and I finished in just under like 2 hours. I think I was 1:56 or so.
Oh.
Yeah. It was tough too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then that kind of like jump started my distance running. 2010 happened to also be the year I did my first ever CrossFit class. I was reading, I used to read Runner's World. I think I probably started it after the 2010 half or before. And they used to have coupons in the back. You know, magazines, how they used to have.
Yeah, I don't know if they have them anymore, but.
Well, anyways, there was one for CrossFit Calgary, and it was, I think, 2 for 1 drop-in. So I convinced my sister to come with me, and the workout was 21, 15, 9 pull-ups and wall balls.
Oh, so like Fran,
but like with wall balls.
It sounds kind of fun.
And like I was in university at the time, so I was like an athlete. And I show up and I obviously can't do a kipping pull-up. And it was the mid-morning class, like
the soccer mom class.
9:30. And I still remember these moms like pumping out sets of kipping pull-ups like it was nothing. And I'm like, I'm an athlete. Meanwhile, I'm like stocking up on bands.
Yeah.
Back when like bands were acceptable for pull-ups and like any sort of gymnastics. I think they actually don't use those in CrossFit gyms now because like you can get so many bands going that like you can shoot up into the sky.
You never actually like do
anything.
Yeah.
My sister did not enjoy herself. I ended up finishing ahead of her and we were all cheering. And I was like, at one point I'm like, you got it, Evan, you're almost done. And she was just like, don't cheer for me. And the next day, neither one of us could extend our arms. And I'm pretty sure our legs were really sore from 45 banded pull-ups and 45 wall balls.
As a skier, I bet you're like, what are these things on my arm? What are these biceps?
Yeah.
They're feeling rhabdous.
And then neither one of us did CrossFit she never did it again. And I took a couple years to recover from that experience before I jumped into it again.
That's understandable.
Yeah. And then my first marathon was 2 years later.
San Francisco.
Yep. We've talked about that one.
Yeah.
But that was a sub 3:30.
So that's your first and fastest.
Yep.
Yeah. And you ran that in honor of your sister?
Yeah. Same thing as I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Fundraising for Team in Training, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Then that was pretty much like, so in 2012, that was before you started back with CrossFit. So that was kind of all you were doing was running and.
Yeah, I was running. I was still doing strength and conditioning, but it was just like, it wasn't anything like CrossFit. I would just go to like our leisure center and do like whatever, like stuff from magazines and things.
Mm-hmm.
And then like old training programs from when I was skiing. And my parents and I were training a ton. They also ran the marathon and we were just like doing yoga, training, playing golf, I was playing a lot of soccer back then in the women's league. And basically it was just nonstop exercise to cope with like the loss of my sister, I think.
Yeah, you get a little addicted to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was definitely the case.
Too exhausted to feel your feelings.
Exactly. It's a good technique.
Yeah, I'm sure many therapists would agree.
Yeah, and then just to kind of go through some like chronological stuff, I found CrossFit again in 2013 and was running a ton, but I was only doing group classes. That was back when like personal programming didn't really exist yet. It was like when you did CrossFit, you just like, it didn't matter who you were, you just like, there was only group classes.
You could like do group classes and then like do like accessory work.
Yeah, but like there wasn't really this other option that people seem to be jumping into, which is fine. But I think group classes are really fun. And so I did mostly classes, and then I would run before CrossFit, like 5 miles. Like I would do a loop in my neighborhood, and then I would go to CrossFit class at like 9, and then I would play soccer, go to yoga in the evening. So I was still working out a lot. And then I went to regionals in 2013 on a team. So that was like shortly after I started CrossFit. And that was...
It was fine. I almost qualified for the games.
We missed the games by one spot. And I remember, this is how like bad I was with exercise. I remember the final day, Sunday, we didn't qualify. Partly because I was ticked off at the result and like the way that our team performed on that day. But I remember that I went for a run that Sunday before awards.
Yeah, of course you did.
I just like I had my runners and I just went for a run like down. It was back when it was in Richmond, Vancouver.
Yeah. That seems normal.
So I was still running a lot, like almost every day. And then law school started in 2014, and that was the summer that law school started in 2014, and I was still only doing like group classes. And then one of my friends in law school was also a CrossFitter, and he had hired Mike Fitzgerald from OPT as a coach. And so I started doing his programming with him. And then I went to regionals in 2014 and shit the bed. I did really well. I missed again qualifying by like one spot, but only snatched like 120, 125. It was a max hang snatch. And that was not good. And it was partially because for the last 2 years that I've been doing CrossFit, or year and a half, I was cherry picking all the workouts. I wasn't doing any strength training. Like, you know how CrossFit HQ programs like deadlift 5, 5, 5, 5, 5?
Yes.
Which sounds like a nightmare now, but in the past it was like, I was like, that is nothing.
You show up, you put like a plate on the bar, and you're like, oh, I mean, this is dumb. I would rather
so this is a complete waste of an hour. And so I just like completely neglected like learning how to lift, strength workouts. I remember loving things like Helen, Nancy,
Eva,
Barbara,
Murph.
Yeah, all of those
predominantly body weight, and maybe with some running would be ideal.
Yeah. And then after that, I signed up with Mike after that regionals, and his programming was totally different than what I was doing for classes. Like the volume was a lot higher, and there was a lot more like progressive strength work. So I was squatting multiple times. I was lifting a lot more. I remember I did a lot of like bike sprints and sled push.
So like high output.
Yeah, just stuff that my body had never done and like didn't like.
Extreme intensity.
Mm-hmm. And I remember walking out of the gym like that summer every single day feeling just like defeated almost.
Because it was so hard.
Yeah, it was so hard and just like so different than what I was used to.
Yeah, I think that's a sign of like, that's good training though, as you
It
I
wasn't
mean, like,
defeated in a bad way,
yeah,
but it was like I never walked out being like, crushed that.
yeah, and you shouldn't be getting tons of pieces where you're like, if you feel like you're knocking it out of the park, because like if you are feeling like that, it's unlikely you're working in the right areas.
Yeah.
Unless you're Tia, she probably feels like that all the time.
And then all throughout law school, so the year before I hired Mike, and then even after I hired Mike, I was running about 20 to 25 miles a week. So 30, 40-ish kilometers.
Yeah.
I would run every single morning before school, Monday to Thursday, and then sometimes on Sunday night. I'd run 5 miles at like 6 in the morning.
And that was like year round,
Year round.
even in the winter.
Yeah.
What's the like?
I had a cutoff.
What's your temperature
It was
cutoff?
minus 25 degrees Celsius.
Which is like for the American listeners, around minus 15 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, like I was wearing ski mitts. I would wear ski socks. I had to basically cover the majority of my face, like a hat, of course.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and then like there was mornings where you'd be like trudging through snow and stuff. I don't know if I'd be interested in running in that weather anymore.
There's
But
like a whole
crazy back then.
There's like a community of sub-zero runners here.
Oh yeah.
It's weird in Calgary.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not running in the winter, you're losing valuable months in the year because it's a long winter.
Yeah, but there's also like treadmills that you can use.
Yeah, but I didn't have access to a treadmill. But yeah, I would run. I would run. Get up at 5:30 every morning. Start running at like 6 or 6:15. Run to about 7:30. Come home, shower. All of my food was packed because I even food prep back then. It's like you don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go to school and then go to the gym in that evening, do my workout for Mike. And didn't really get that much stronger. I mean, I did get stronger, but I think just like my technique got better because I was actually lifting.
I would say your technique remained the same. And I know
So
that.
shitty.
Well, because, okay, you snatched, 125 in 2014 at regionals?
Yeah,
And then what did you snatch in 2015 at regionals?
158. But that was a PR.
That's a massive increase in a year.
Yeah. It was partially because I was probably starting to like actually make hip contact.
Yeah, but like I've seen both of those lifts, and neither one are technically that
No.
proficient.
Definitely not.
But that was back when a 160-pound snatch was like actually a pretty good snatch.
Yeah.
At the regional level. I mean, obviously enough to get you to the games. Now it's like, if you're not snatching, I don't know, like over 200 pounds, are you even snatching? It's crazy.
I know. I hit like a 160 and I'm like, that's nothing. This is pathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I did get a little bit stronger and obviously better. I feel like I didn't get my maximum strength. Definitely got better, but I got really a lot better at lifting at sub-maximal weights.
Yeah.
So like those like 80% for reps kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mike would obviously know more about this, but that's how I feel. I improved. And then I qualified for the games. Was still running.
And just to be clear, Mike didn't know you were running this much?
No, I don't think so. Like he may have said like, "Hey, are you still running?" And I was like,
Yeah, sometimes.
It was like I ran like probably 40 minutes because that was kind of like my absolute minimum amount that I would ever run, like the day before the games started.
Yeah.
And then I also ran the day after the games when I could even barely walk, and I went for a run. I just like I loved running, but I also like had a bit of a addiction to exercise and just
You had a streak going.
yeah, and I did have a streak. No off days, no rest days, which thinking back is so silly. And not good. And just not good for anyone's physical or mental health.
No, but you also did the same damn thing when you got into like tracking your getting 10,000 steps a day. You literally, and this was like a few years ago. I remember you pacing up and down in our condo hallway trying to get to 10,000 steps. So you have a propensity for streaks.
Yeah.
That's what that point I'm trying to make there.
And then after that, I kind of refocused again on CrossFit. Like, it kind of qualified for the games as a, I don't want to say fluke, but it was a bit of a fluke.
It wasn't like the intention.
No, like, I never had a goal of qualifying for the games. I just really, really, really loved CrossFit, and I always have loved competing. And I ended up qualifying and having one of the best, like, athletic experiences of my life at the games. In every single way possible. It was just one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2016, I took the year off before starting my career. The law firm who had hired me to article said that I could have the year off, and I would start articling with the next class a year later. So I focused on CrossFit and was just I was living at home for half the year, and then I moved out into an apartment downtown because I knew I was going to be starting work. At that point, I had a couple sponsors from qualifying for the games, so I was able to cover the costs enough to kind of justify taking a year. And in 2016 and 17, I was only running on my rest days because at that point I had started doing double sessions of CrossFit.
Yeah, I mean, like, rest days, running days, same thing.
Yeah. And like anytime I ran, it was a 5-mile loop, and I didn't really time myself. I just went out and ran. And I pretty much did that up until 2019. I was running on my rest days. And then 2017 we met.
Yeah, and I remember we met at Wadapalooza, and the day after the competition, you were like, "Hey, do you want to go on a run?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, what? What did you just say?" You're like, "Yeah, like a run." And then, like, I'm like fairly smitten at that point. I'm like, "Yeah, of course. Like, I run on my rest
You were
days."
like, "Yeah, let me just get my runners." Hey, Megan, do you have those runners that you brought?
I need to borrow your running shoes. Yeah. So fortunately, she did have some. Yeah, and so that was like, and I didn't realize, I guess at that point, that was like a thing for you. And then that whole summer, we were kind of traveling, like splitting time in between Raleigh and Calgary. Yeah, it was like every rest day. I remember I would go get a massage, and you would, during my hour-long massage in Raleigh, you would just go run.
Yeah.
/ get lost. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I got lost, and I was like, it was so hot that day.
I was at like a 98-degree day.
And I was like, if I'm not back in an hour, come looking for me. And sure enough, I'm like, I finally find my way back. Like,
because Alex doesn't run with we don't run with phones.
Never. I like to be completely disconnected.
Yeah.
To the point where I will risk getting completely lost in a city that I don't know at all.
Like, all these pine trees look the same.
Just like running down the road, and I just see your car driving up, and you're just shaking your head.
So lost.
And then I finally stopped running in 2019.
Why though?
Honestly, I think you had a big part of it. You finally were like, I was literally run ragged, but also like mentally, just like in all respects, run ragged. From training, as much as I was, when I first started working at this law firm, I had told Mike, like, CrossFit is not, like, competing in CrossFit is no longer my priority. Like, I still want to stay fit, and I might compete, but I can only manage one session a day because work is just too demanding. I don't have time. Like, literally, I'm working till like 7 or 7:30 every night. So he would give me one hour of workouts per day, 5 or 6 days a week, and I would go to the gym for 6 a.m., 5:45, and I would do my hour, shower at the gym, and then go to work for like 8. And then Meredith and Jordan had moved to Calgary, and you guys were training fairly full time. And I was so jealous. And like just worried. I'm like, well, maybe I can compete. Like maybe I can do it and do this job. And I just was not ready to let go of this competitive aspect of CrossFit. It wasn't the competitive aspect. It was like the desire to keep getting better, to keep fitter, to keep getting stronger, to keep PRing,
Yeah.
And so the weekends were still 2 sessions a day. And then I started increasing my workout volume during the week. I would like slowly be like, okay, Mike, I'm going to have like more workouts on this week. So can you give me 2 sessions on like Tuesday and Thursday?
And the second session was usually in the condo, like with ergs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had like ergs and I did kettlebell.
Yeah.
And so I would get home from work, and this is when Meredith had moved in.
I had moved in. I was also coaching at like 5:40, 6 a.m. or whatever the early, yeah, like 6 a.m. So I would have to get up at like 5. And Alex would get home usually around like best case 7:30, usually 8. And she'd have to do her second session. And like sometimes you'd get home really late. So now you're working out at like 10 p.m. and I'm trying to sleep because I have to get up at 5.
I did a workout once. I don't think you were there. I think this was maybe before you had moved in. I did a workout at like 11.
Yes.
11 p.m. I did a workout because I couldn't not do what was given to me as a like programming. I don't think I ever missed a workout, but I was completely like exhausted and stressed.
Yeah.
And horrible to be around.
I will say nothing.
I think like Jordan was scared of me.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone was a little afraid at that time.
Yeah, like I did not have time to waste. I was just, and oh man, yeah, that was a lot.
You'd walk into
at that point I was like, I can't run on my rest days. I think it was partially too because I had to like make up workouts on my rest days in some scenarios.
Yeah, like the erg workouts.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think I started running more seriously almost about a year ago. I started getting back into it, and I was inspired a little bit by my coach, Mike, who's recently gotten into running marathons. And I just like, I miss it. I miss being able to go out and run and not have to worry about it impacting my energy levels or my training. You know, there's certain times a year where I really enjoy running, and this time around, like getting back into running was a little different because I had a nice Garmin watch that Meredith got me.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of saw you moving back towards running, and like I've seen the way that Mike's been programming with his, and I was like, hey, like you can't run with a Timex. It's 2020. Like, let's get with the program here. So I just got like, yours is a Forerunner 235, which they don't make anymore. They make a 245. It's kind of like the more, it's not like the entry level, but it's like fairly entry level, but works really well for you.
Yeah. Everyone always asks what my watch is. What kind of Garmin?
Yeah, I think as soon as you post a Garmin, people ask.
Yeah.
Every time people see mine, they ask. Yeah, that must have been last year because I remember that was kind of, then I started running.
Yeah.
I was still using an Apple.
I think you wanted to start running because like you wanted a Garmin.
I didn't have a Garmin though. I like ran with an Apple Watch for a really long time, which is just the worst for running.
Because you could have we got a bunch of shoes sent to us too. Maybe that was it. You were like,
so I was like,
I like shoes.
I do like shoes. I should run. And I'm actually good at running. That's more my background. Like I'm a decent runner. I'm not like a lunk that can't run. I was a runner, like endurance person that became a CrossFitter. Sort of like you, I guess.
We were running probably a couple times per week. Like all last year.
Yeah. And I remember there was one day I had like an easy 5K programmed, and like 5:25 per kilometer pace. And you were like, "Can I come?" I was like, "Sure." It's just an easy 5K. And someone had posted on Instagram.
Just say it.
Okay. Our friend Allison Scuds, who, bless her heart, is not the best runner out there. She had posted on Instagram like earlier in the week or something. She had ran a 5K and PR'd it, or it would come close to PR. I can't remember, but she posted her watch time, and So we're like, we're running or whatever at our 5:25 kind of easy pace around our neighborhood loop, and like we kept like speeding up. We're speeding up a little bit. And then like the final and like no neither one of us were like, cuz we're both wearing watches, and I never said to Alex like, "Hey asshole, can you slow down?" And she never said to me like, "Why are you running so fast?" And so by the end, like the last kilometer was
and
like
I didn't feel like I wasn't racing you. We were just both
yeah,
together.
the last the last kilometer was like full out. I don't know what the average pace was, but it was quick. And we finished, clocked our time, looked at our watch, and turns out after the fact we were both trying to do the same thing.
At the it was like an hour later. We're like, okay. I kind of just like wanted to like see if I could beat like Scuds' PR, and I was like, me too.
And I think we did, but that was a really funny nonverbal moment, because on any other day, I think if we had an easy run programmed and one of us did that, it would have been a real problem.
Yeah. That's kind of why we don't run together anymore. We just do our own thing.
Yeah, people always ask that, like, why don't you guys, because we will often run at the same time, but like not together, even when our paces for, one part of the run is similar. I also have gotten into this thing, like, I don't wear headphones, you don't wear headphones. I really hate listening to people like breathe, and I don't like when someone's running with me and their steps or their cadence is off, because then it's just like I'm hearing like double the footsteps. And I use my footsteps and my breathing a lot when I run. Like sometimes I count, like I'm very aware.
Okay, so we get it. It's because you can't keep up with me.
No, that's not what I said.
I think one of the last times we ran together was 2018. We ran that 7K.
You mean the first 7K of the half marathon that you tricked me into doing, and then almost killed me? Yeah, you left that out of your chronological order.
I know.
That was after, yeah, you were still running a bit back then, and that was after regionals in 2018. So that was in between, that was in the period of time where regionals 2018 had ended. I came sixth place and had not yet been invited as a backfill. So there was like...
So we were both like, excuse my language. Well, I won't say it. F CrossFit. And I was looking online. I'm like, Banff half marathon. That's coming up. I'm going to look that up. Hey, Meredith, do you want to do the Banff half? It's in like a month. You'd have like a couple weeks to get a couple long runs in, and like you'd be fine. Just a half. And Meredith was like... I mean, I don't know. And then I was like, hey, I'll sign you up. And she was like, fine. And then I looked at the dates, and it was like June 15th and not July 15th, somewhere around those dates. And I'm like, oh, actually, it's next weekend.
You have a week.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. And you were.
Well, yeah, but you kind of tricked me into it, because
we're going to do it for fun.
Yeah, and Mike Fitzgerald had said, do this for fun, like, don't run it hard. And I was like, okay. Like, we had been running, because 333 was programmed, we'd been doing a lot of running on the Woodway.
He never said not to run it hard.
Okay, he said just do it for fun.
No, we said we were going to do it for fun.
Okay.
Which was the plan all along.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess we just have different definitions of fun, but like, and that was before we had Garmin, so I have absolutely no idea what our pace is. And so the only thing I can do is every time we pass a kilometer marker, I have to look down at my watch and kind of like math out the pace, like what I'm doing, what my splits are. And like we get to the 7th kilometer, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like we're running negative splits. Like every kilometer's faster. Like I don't know how this ends.
And I'm thinking to myself, I can't lose her.
I can't get
How much faster do I have to speed up for her to drop off here?
Yeah, so and I had not knowing like what happens between
just trying to race me
between kilometer 7 and 21. I was like, you go on ahead now. I'm not falling into your trap. But then because I'm also like a little bit of a psycho,
But then at 7K out of 21, she says to herself, I haven't come this far to only come this far.
yeah, like you don't want to waste the effort. Like when's the next time I'm going to run like a 33-minute?
Only 14K to go.
Only I've come a third, so it's all downhill from here. Um yeah, so I was like, "Okay, I guess I have to run this fast now because I've run a third of it fast and we have to see." So that was like
You have to see what you can do.
I have to see what my physical limit is today. So I found it. My arch collapsed. My
Your
hips,
your knees exploded.
my knees felt like they were gonna like my kneecaps felt like they were gonna eject like a Pez dispenser. I didn't think I would ever be able to sit down ever again. And then a week later, I got an email from the CrossFit Games saying, "Congratulations, you may be competing this year. Keep
Be
training."
ready in a month.
I was like, "Be ready in a month." In a month. Yeah. So that was man, summer 2018 was wild.
It really was.
And then I proceeded to get every injury under the sun in that month.
It was like we went to the emergency room, I think 3 times
In a
that
month. For just random.
It was like you had to get stitches once. You effed up your thumb pretty bad.
Thought I broke my thumb. There was something else too.
It was good times.
Yeah, it was, what a time to be alive. But yeah, I didn't want to get through the chronological sequence without talking about Banff. So that kind of brings us to, let's see,
This year,
like January, February this year, when you made the decision, and that decision was,
well, I injured my shoulder pretty badly skiing.
How did you do that?
It was your fault. You were in a bad mood because I said you were capable of going down a run, which you were not capable of going down.
I didn't.
And you cried a little bit.
I didn't cry.
And then you were speeding ahead of me and distracted me. And I went off a jump and lost my balance and basically went down on my shoulder super hard and almost tore something.
Did I make you go off the jump?
No, but I had to it was like, one of those, if you're familiar with skiing, when you're going down a cat track, it was like one of the jumps off the side that teenage boys do.
Yeah.
So of course,
teenage boy / Alex.
I put myself in the same category.
She identifies as a teenage boy.
Or teenage girl, because I was just like that as a teenage girl. But at that point, I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do the open. My shoulder was healing so slowly. I couldn't do any upper body stuff. And then I magically got better the week before the open. And I did the open, and then I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do quarterfinals, even though I really wasn't sure about doing quarterfinals.
Yeah.
I had kind of already, my back was super sore. I had hurt it doing a squat clean. I just wasn't really sure. And at that point, I kind of decided, if I'm not going to be doing CrossFit this year, then maybe I'll do, train for a half marathon, a faster half marathon. And then I kind of was thinking, well, maybe I'll do a marathon. I can, if I qualify for semis, I can do the Calgary, and I'd have a few months to train up for it. And then when I didn't qualify for semifinals at a quarterfinals, I said, you know what? I'm going to run a marathon. And partially was, 2 reasons. I was injured. My back was just not okay. And the second thing was I needed something to kind of kick me out of the CrossFit world a little bit. I still had one foot
over the fence
into CrossFit, and I didn't make it to semis, but should I just buckle down even harder this year and try to make the most of it, get stronger,
we go,
a better front squat, and I'm what am I doing?
Yeah.
I don't really like being in a gym. We had bought mountain bikes, and we're traveling a little bit more, even just around BC and Alberta, and the stress of feeling like you have to train 10 sessions a week in a gym, and those sessions being quality training, especially if you have specific goals like getting strong, which was absolutely going to be necessary for me.
Yep.
Just didn't feel like it was going to be worth it. And running was just going to provide a little bit more joy and flexibility. And so I just made the decision.
And then you decided to join up with Team in Training for the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my fundraising is going really well. I'm loving every minute of training and every minute of fundraising and kind of sharing the process. Like, I'm not a big social media person, but I've been posting my runs and some of my workouts and things.
So let's talk about, that's a good segue into the next topic, which I think is the way that a lot of people probably are familiar with marathon training or have seen or experienced it is a kind of traditional, maybe 3 or 4 month marathon training program where, you know, there's running 5 days a week, you peak once and then you run. Obviously, like, any amount of strength and conditioning necessitates a different approach. So, like, I guess if you just want to describe what your training on a weekly basis looks like right now, and then also has that changed any between kind of when you started, like, I guess around May and now.
Yes. So, for running specifically, I've been running 3 times per week since May. And I have been building up in runs, in distances. Like, my long run is building. The longest run I've done is 32 kilometers, and I did that about 6 weeks ago. So about 3 months, over 3 months before the marathon, which is on October 10th.
So that's pretty unusual by itself.
Yeah.
Because most people only build up once and then you run the full distance.
Yeah. So I asked Mike, my coach, I'm like, what do I, like, what is the goal here? And now I'm building up again with a faster pace at those distances. So my marathon pace. Before, it was just at an easier pace, like a more, I think it was 5:05 to 5:15.
Yeah.
I was completing those longer distances in. And so now I'm trying to complete them in a sub 450 per kilometer pace. So that's
like
740
yeah
per mile.
And that's your goal time for your marathon has shifted a bit.
Yeah, it's gotten faster.
So what was your original goal time was?
Sub 5 minutes per kilometer.
Which is like a 3:30 finish.
Yeah.
And your new goal pace is?
About 10 seconds faster per K.
So around a 7-minute, 40-second mile.
Yeah.
For a like 3 hour, 20-minute finish.
I think it's like 10 second per kilometer. So like 3:25.
Yeah.
I actually haven't even looked. I know it. I'm going for a sub 3:30. So Tuesday, I do my long run in the morning. In the afternoon, I do about an hour to an hour and a half worth of CrossFit upper body. So like there's a lot of EMOMs in there. I have a lot of chest bar pull-ups, some bench press, kipping handstand push-ups, kipping ring dips, like typical kind of CrossFit.
Yeah, except I think the reps are a little more controlled.
Oh yeah, the reps. The reps are definitely, they're carefully counted, I'm sure. And then Wednesday is like a snatch, deadlift, and then some posterior chain stuff. Thursday I run again, and that distance varies. It really depends on the intensity and the duration of my Tuesday run, I think. It's kind of like a filler run. It's usually easy. And then Thursday afternoon I do a 20 to 30 minute upper body based workout. So again, it's a little bit on the longer side, so intensity is down. Friday is off, so we usually mountain bike for 2 to 3 hours Friday afternoon. Saturday morning I run intervals, and that usually ends up being like 12 to 15 kilometers of running. And then Saturday afternoon is similar to like Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. It's mainly upper body. And then Sunday, I have only one session on Sunday, and it's again, it's kind of like that's when my squatting is usually programmed. And then, although there's usually some GHD sit-ups and like wall balls, dumbbell hang power clean, that sort of thing. Just like
Yeah.
a variety of CrossFit movements. But nothing like I never go into a workout like feeling like I'm gonna just like have to crush myself. Like everything is fairly moderate intensity, which is nice.
Yeah. And I think, and this is like, if you're actually interested in like understanding the theory of program design, as it's intended, like just follow Mike Fitzgerald on Instagram, at Optimum Performance Training, because he posts about this stuff quite often, either in posts or in his stories. But I think kind of the big thing with your training design is that, it kind of follows this theory, like you shouldn't, like following runs, you should try to separate your runs and your strength training by 8 hours. And if you can't do that, which for example on like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, you can't do that, then the strength focus on those, in those sessions that cannot be further than 8 hours out, should be an upper body focus. And that just, I think, kind of minimizes probably injury risk and maximizes the potential gain you can get from those strength sessions.
Yep.
And then like, obviously if you have to do lower body on those days, which I don't think you do much of anything, you just to kind of avoid like plyometric and explosive movements as much as possible.
Yeah.
But you've had to like tweak some things.
Yeah. So I was squatting heavy still 2 times per week up until I want to say it was 8 to 10 weeks ago when my volume in one of the long runs really started building. I think I was over like maybe 45 kilometers that week. And I had a bit of a niggly knee.
Mm-hmm.
And the niggly knee quickly became what I thought was a pretty serious like knee problem, because it was starting to hurt at 16 out of 24 kilometers. And instead of stopping like a smart person, I decided to complete the run and do 8 more kilometers, which is like 40 minutes of running.
The Parker that we know you are.
Yes. My knee was hurting so much, but I was like, never stop.
Finish at all costs.
And it sucks because that kind of like, had I stopped when it first started hurting, it may have, I would have lost 8 kilometers, but I wouldn't have lost a whole week of running.
Bit of a life lesson there.
Yeah. So it turns out it was more of a quad issue than anything else, which after talking to Mike, was probably the fact that I was just doing too much.
Yeah.
With the lower body. So it was like too much heavy squatting. I was also had just started, the mountain biking season had really kind of kicked up. So we were doing like longer rides.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot, too much at once.
Yeah.
So we adjusted squatting down, and that was a conversation between me and Mike about, okay, well, you do understand that like if you reduce squatting volume, your strength is going to be directly impacted. And I said to him, don't care. My goal is to run fast and stay healthy.
Yeah.
And so we dropped squatting down, and it's pretty low intensity squatting. Like I'm never maxing out on any set, any rep really. Which is kind of nice. I'm not a big fan of lifting heavy. Nice break from that.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of tweaks along the way.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of tweaks that I don't even know about on his end.
Yeah. And I think that's the real, in my opinion, the real benefit to having, well, not only a programmer, but a programmer who really understands what he's doing. And like, anyone who's doing CrossFit and wants to run a half marathon or wants to run a marathon, like you think you can just, grab a program off the internet and then just kind of like mash it together with your gym programming and everything will be fine. No problems. And like, if you get lucky, yeah, it'll work. But what's more likely to happen, I think, when you start adding in that amount of, run volume without a great deal of attention to leg volume, posterior chain volume, reps in the gym, that kind of thing, is you really you open the door wide for injury. That's the big one. And then what I think what would happen for a lot of people without realizing it is a real pretty severe demotivation eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things that starts to occur when you're just doing too much is you stop being motivated to do anything. And I think that's where having someone who can intelligently balance the volume, put pieces together in the right sequence, like understand, okay, this takes this toll. If you can't do your run on one day and you want to push it to the next day, that's fine, but it means you can't do this session. And that happened to you, right?
Yeah, like, so there's a couple things. There was a day I had to run 20 or 24 kilometers. It was a Wednesday and it was super windy. And I hate wind. And I messaged Mike and I'm like, look, I really don't want to run. So I'm going to move my run till tomorrow, if that's fine. And he was like, okay, then tomorrow, like, then Friday, you can't do the squatting from Thursday. It was like, no, I couldn't do, I was like, I'm going to switch the days. And then that created a bunch of issues. And I'm like, well, what if I move the squatting to this day? And he's like, well, no, because then you can't do the run on this. Like, it's very, very meticulously laid out.
Yeah, and it should be.
So I think it takes to have it like, I think I could train for a marathon and do CrossFit. I don't think I could train for a marathon and have the pace be what it is and feel recovered and also be like PRing my 10 minutes of burpee ring muscle ups. Still being able to snatch like 160 pretty much on any day, like squat clean 185 on any day. And on top of all of that, feel good and not be injured. That's the biggest part.
Yeah.
And I also think, and not to like pump my own tires, but I think it takes a special type of athlete who really like is able to like follow direction and not be moving things around and kind of commit to the training.
Yeah, and just
the schedule.
Like be disciplined to what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I've never been one to question Mike or to try to like change things.
Yeah,
on my own.
It's like and it's for someone like you and other athletes, like you're able to output at a really high level in the gym. Top 1% CrossFitters. But you're also able to output, like you can run with speed. Like your paces are quite impressive. And so it just requires a more precise programming approach. It's like if you're a mechanic, like anyone can probably look up a YouTube video and like understand how to work on like their Honda Civic. Like, but when you're dealing with like an F1 car, that requires a mechanic that really knows what they're doing.
You think? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. You're like the Alfa Romeo.
Okay, thanks.
You were not quite to like Ferrari or Mercedes.
At least I'm not a Williams.
Haas. I think Haas is the one you don't want to be. Yeah, it requires someone who really like understands what they're doing. Or if you're an athlete who's doing your own programming because you possess, the prerequisite amount of knowledge to do that, you have to be very in tune, like with yourself and honest with how that training is going.
Yeah, like I've been training. I've actually been strength training since I was like 12 because I used to do it for dryland training. I have no desire to learn the theory behind programming or like how you physiologically adapt to training and like all of those different things that Mike knows about, or like even you have a lot more knowledge in it. And I think that almost makes me, I'll say for me, at least almost a better athlete because I look at the paper, I'm like, wonder why Mike programmed that. And then I just do it.
Yeah.
Whereas like you or some other people might be like, well, why did Mike do that? Like, I don't feel, good today. I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to switch this. And like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I will say I used to do that more than I do it now. And that's partially because I took a little vacation back in February and I was like, I'm going to do my own thing for, a month. And then after because I used to do a lot of my own programming. And then after doing that for,
that was before you turned 33.
Yeah. And I was 32 in February.
Okay.
Let's not be rude. Um, yeah, and then I think for me, it's like I do know that he knows what he's doing, and it's like it's also one less thing that I have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of learned that the last thing I want to do at the end of the day is like come up with my training and like properly think it through.
Yeah, totally.
So I think
totally agree with
that's another advantage of taking a more personalized approach. But yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about Nick Barr.
Yeah,
Nick Bear.
I'll just touch on that and like body weight for a second, and then that'll be the last thing. So Nick Bear, I found him because Adam Klink, if you recall, posted a video of him completing a challenge, and it was a 500-pound squat and a sub 5-minute mile run within the same day, which is pretty dang impressive. And so I was following Adam Klink, and I was looking on his page after he did that, and I saw he was running with a guy named Nick Bear, and he said, this guy's he's a quick runner. Like, I'm learning a lot from him, from running with him. And so I look at this guy, Nick Bear, and I'm like, this dude is huge. Like, he looks like he has a body. I mean, you can look him up on Instagram, but it's like he looks a lot like Fikowski. Like he's got a lot of muscle mass, but he's lean. And I guess he used to be an ex-bodybuilder. He's not quite as tall, I don't think, but he's a big dude.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see he's about to run he's training to run a sub 3 hour marathon, and my mouth just like fell open.
This is not a guy that looks like he should be able to run
Absolutely
a sub 3 hour.
not. And I was listening to a podcast. He has his own podcast. It's called Bear Performance Nutrition. He has a BPN nutrition supplement company, and he was explaining that when he said he was going to run a sub 3 hour marathon, that people were like, no, you will never run that, a sub 3, never, not at your size, not with your background. Like, and now he's running the Leadville 100, which is an ultra endurance race in Leadville, Colorado. And he said, people will post on my posts when I'm training or make comments like, hey dude, like if you slim down, like if you lost weight and like had more of a runner's body, you'd be a lot faster. And he's like, I don't want to have a runner's body. Like, I want to be really strong and also really fast, and also be able to like push my body at these crazy distances. And that kind of resonated with me, because when I first started training for this marathon, I was like, I'll lose weight. Like, I'll naturally lose weight. And I didn't really. And then I thought, okay, I'll cut my calories down a little bit and try to slim down. Like, I don't really need to lean out, but like, even if I lost some muscle and like lost some pounds, it would make running a little bit easier. And that proved to be a little bit difficult because I was hungry and I didn't feel like I was recovering. And I only tried for a couple weeks, and I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work. I'm just going to eat for performance. And if I'm bigger, then I'm bigger. But I see this guy, Nick Bear, and he just ran a sub 3, and like, he has kind of a similar body that I do, just like male and female, like the equivalent.
He has a PP and you don't?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to like, he's jacked, but I'm similar to him in that I have more muscle than an average runner.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, it kind of gave me confidence. I'm like, well, if he can run a sub 3 looking like that, then I can like get back into running and feel comfortable running at the pace I want to run at without having to like, cut my calories and try to lose weight in a period of time. So yeah, he's a bit of an inspiration to me, and I really like following him. So he's a good follow. But the last thing I will say is, it's funny that I thought my body was going to change that quickly, because I didn't actually deviate from my training that much. But it's this, and my clients will say too, like, oh, I've been running more, or I just started strength training like last month and I'm not even noticing any difference. It's like, your body doesn't change that quickly. It takes a lot, and it takes a lot of pushing in an opposite direction to make a pretty significant change.
Yeah, it's like, it's essentially exposure to the same stimulus over time. And that's why athletes who from different backgrounds all look different. Like, rock climbers look like rock climbers, sprinters look like sprinters.
Mm-hmm.
Football players, depending on the position, look like football players, divers, gymnasts. Like you will adapt and your body will change based on the sport that you do. And that happens like regardless of the genetics that you have. I mean, nuances are genetics based, but like the way that you're going to look if you do a sport for 10 to 15 years, you can't just like two things. You can't reverse that immediately, which is what you were kind of expecting to happen. But you also can't expect to really like move in that direction in a matter of months.
No, definitely not. Like we always say, and I'm like a broken record to some of my clients who are chasing performance or aesthetic goals, and I'll say form follows function. Like if you focus on what your body needs to do, you will look the way you should look for that task. So if somebody wants to become like an elite endurance athlete, like you do that for long enough, your body will look like an elite endurance athlete. Like it just, that naturally happens. But it takes a long ass time.
Yeah.
A long ass time. And it takes, like, I think I would, with my history in strength training, it would take a lot more running and a lot less strength training. Because right now, even though I'm not doing even half the volume with like lifting, I'm still probably doing a fair amount to maintain a lot of my lower body muscle and strength.
Yep.
And it's been really cool to see that the adaptation to the running training, but also maintaining a lot of the other strengths that I have.
Yeah, like you're metabolically and like from a like training perspective, adapting as if you are a runner, and you are.
Mm-hmm.
But you're physically more of a CrossFitter still.
I don't know. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Anyways, I guess, I don't like to just get on here and talk about myself for an hour and a half, but there have been a few questions on my Instagram about my training and asking to post about it. And so I thought we'd jump on here and do a podcast and discuss it, and also to give a shout out to my coach who's doing a great job and allowing me to have success so far.
Yeah.
So
what's next? Like there's kind of like three, if you had to pick between like, okay, I'm going to back off the distance and run like fast, do a fast half or like a fast 10K, or I'm going to run a faster marathon. So we stick on the marathon sort of theme, or ultra marathon.
Okay. The only thing that I want to say, pursue a faster marathon, but that's saying that before I've completed this one, which I remember so vividly completing my first marathon and thinking that was the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life. I'm never doing a marathon again.
You just needed to give it 10 years.
But your body forgets pain. So, but the marathon, yeah, it's funny. I'm reading a book about it, and it's, marathons, they have they're just a special distance. I don't think I necessarily would want to go down in distance because that sounds too painful. I also Ivy almost just fell off the chair. I also wouldn't want to go up and do like something crazy long because for starters, I don't have the time to train for that. It's also too slow.
Yeah.
I don't have, maybe I'll have interest in the future, but for now I'm like, I really like that marathon distance. It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
And I have like, if I decide to run 3:30, I like to think is a good time, but like that's nothing.
You can shave an hour off that.
Yeah, but think about it. It's kind of like when you're good at squatting or good at like lifting and you snatch like 170, like getting to 175 and then getting to 180 and 185, like those like increments take it so much training. And I feel like running is kind of like that. It's like, but like running a marathon, like you don't just up and run a marathon and expect an improvement. You have to do those like pretty spaced out.
Yeah, like once every 6 months maybe.
So I feel like if I wanted to pursue like a really fast marathon, that would keep me busy for several years.
It would. Yeah, it definitely.
Think about all the new shoes I could buy.
You yeah, we would have so many.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, hard to say.
Well,
What's your new fundraising? What's your fundraising at? What's your fundraising goal?
fundraising just exceeded 10,000 this
That's
past weekend.
amazing.
People are really pulling through, and it warms my heart. And yeah, I hit 10,000 this weekend. It was the 10th anniversary of my sister's death, and I did a little story about it, and a lot of people, I guess, it tugged on their heartstrings, and they donated, and I've increased my goal to 12,500 secretly, and now not so secretly I'm going to try to shoot for 15,000.
I think you'll get it.
So I got a little bit of work to do in the next 7 weeks, both from a running standpoint and fundraising standpoint.
Yeah, I think you got it.
But thanks for redoing the podcast with me.
There's no other way I'd like to spend a Monday night. I think this officially makes it a 14-hour workday. So,
this is fun work, though.
It is.
Who doesn't love talking about their own sport?
Yeah.
Sports training.
Sports. Yeah, it's fine. Hopefully this one is better. We'll see when I export it. Thank you guys for listening. I'm going to put the link to Alex's fundraising page in the show notes. So if you haven't donated yet and are inclined to donate, just click there. If you've already donated and want to donate more, I'm sure she would be happy.
If you've already donated, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, seriously, it's a really, really awesome way to do a marathon. And I think, like we've talked about it, it's like if you're thinking about getting into half marathon, triathlons, I think Team in Training does training plans and programs and help for.
There's a whole community.
All of those, yeah, and it's
when I did the San Francisco one, they had a dinner the night before the marathon, and they had guest speakers, and some of those guest speakers were not only blood cancer survivors, but they were survivors because of the research that was directly funded by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society that was raised through Team in Training. And so, I mean, I'm not on here to plug Team in Training, but I do. It is a seeing somebody's life directly impacted by the fundraising is, and I just thought I'd share that for all of you that have donated, or for whoever. It's touching. It's real. It makes it real, I guess.
Yeah. There's a human component, for sure. Great. Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed this one and our previous ones, hit the like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
To the TV.
To the couch.